Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name's Joe. Today we'll be doing a playthrough of the game Ardennes II. This is from Multi-Man Publishing, The Gamers. This is a standard combat series game. It is the newest one. It is also a remake of obviously a game called Ardennes, which came out in the 90s. This one is designed by series designer Dean Essig, who's also obviously the game designer, as I just said. Developer was Lee Forrester. This game actually took advantage of some of the research that was done for the Battalion Combat Series game Last Blitzkrieg. So it's actually a little different from some of the other SCS games. The SCS is kind of the most simple, I guess. Not that it is simple, but it is the most, I guess, beginner-friendly of the various series that Dean Essig created for the gamers that has now been merged into Multi-Man Publishing. This one does have a little bit of differences, as I said. For one thing, zones of control are handled differently because in this one we actually have Zoc bonds, which if you're familiar with the Mark Simonich 4X series, that's kind of a staple of that series, aside from the most recent game, North Africa 41, but that would be a digression, so we're not going to go there. But basically, instead of having the normal zone of control that exists in all the other SCS games, this one has Zoc bonds instead, zone of control bonds, where basically you have two infantry units and the hex between them would be a zone of control, basically. So that all it really does is increase the movement cost for an enemy unit to go through there by 4. Which is a fairly significant chunk. That is 1/4 of a mechanized unit's movement allowance, or typical movement allowance, and nearly half of the movement allowance for a leg unit. So that is an important change. Note for the purposes here that infantry only includes plain infantry with any level of motorization, mechanized, airborne, or glider. That's it. So there is some bicycle infantry in this. There is penal infantry, Erz, Ost, MG, and Pioneer units. All of those are German side units, Axis units, essentially. Other than that, the turn sequence is a little bit different than it is in the base SCS system. We have a pre-turn. And in that pre-turn, we have weather determination, because weather was obviously an important part of the Battle of the Bulge, which is, of course, the subject matter of this particular game. Airstrike availability for the U.S., or the Allies, if you would prefer, but the bulk of the forces in this game are American on the Allied side. The Luftwaffe does not play a role in this game. All of the air stuff will be coming from the U.S. side of the ledger. Air supply allocation, the American player or the Allied player can elect to use the airstrike units for supply instead of doing an airstrike. Then we have reinforcement placement, and then barrage and DG marker removal. Now, barrage is something also that's a little bit different. I won't really go into that here. We'll talk about it as we play, only because it's a little bit more involved, and it's probably easier explained by seeing rather than just kind of going through it. Then in our German turn, we would have barrage marker removal. The Germans do have the initiative. Essentially, they will go first. They were the attackers in this particular battle. So we will have in the German turn, barrage marker removal, movement and barrage, German half reconciliation, then the US barrage. The US does barrage in the German turn, and U.S. half reconciliation, combat, exploitation, and German supply. And then the American turn, the U.S. turn, will be barrage marker removal, movement and barrage, U.S. half reconciliation. That's another part we'll talk about as far as that's involved with the barrage. Exploitation and U.S. supply, and then the game's the turn end is just turn marker advancement and the beginning of the new turn. All right, weather determination, we don't really need to do anything because basically, like I said at the beginning, we have a no freeze in effect throughout the first, well, until the 23rd, which is after this scenario ends, so we don't have to worry about that. So we do need to check airstrike availability. With a 5 or a 6, the U.S. will actually get one. They rolled a 2, so they don't get one. Then we have reinforcements. We have one airborne unit, the last parachute drop of the war for the Germans, the Von der Heit, or Von der Heit. They get to drop anywhere within one hex of 1749. So 1749 is here. 1745, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's right here. Barrage Michel. So we will roll a die, because we have to determine whether they actually successfully land or not. On a 1 or a 2, the unit is removed from play. On a 3 to 6, they have a successful landing. So they do have a successful landing, and he gets dropped right in there. Now they will have to trace supply, which will be a challenge right now based on their location and the fact that we have American units sitting on these roads. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. So that's the only reinforcement that arrives on turn 2. We don't have any barrage or DG marker removal, so we go right into the German turn, and we do movement and barrage. We're going to start in the south. So this is the southeastern corner of the map. Basically, this is the edge right here. Right here along the edge. This unit is in the southernmost hex it can be in, and this unit is in the easternmost hex it can be in. So we have there aren't many Americans in this area, and this is all German right here. So we have some Volksgrenadier, we have SS, we have Fallschirmjäger. So these down here at least are pretty good units to start with. Now, this artillery unit right here, you have to pay attention because this game has divisional integrity. And so basically to spot for this artillery unit, and they can self-spot, but in this case, they probably need to have a spotter for them. They're tied to this Volksgrenadier. You can see it says 12 VG on here. So these guys are with this unit. And you can also not stack different divisions together. So if this SS unit here was in the same hex as this, they would both be DG, which it means disorganized if you're unfamiliar with SCS terminology. And DG in this game is a little different than in some of the other games. And there is no real out of supply. Like out of supply in this game just makes you DG. So if you wonder what DG, what causes it. So if they end overstacked, if they end any phase violating divisional integrity, as I just said, they end a friendly supply phase out of supply. So if they're out of supply during an enemy supply phase, not a big deal. It has to be the friendly supply phase. They enter or start a phase within any traffic jam hex. So I haven't really talked about that yet, but these X's here, this is a traffic jam hex. So this unit right here will start this turn. So if they are an artillery unit, such as this guy, and they bug out or retreat or barrage when unable to trace supply, the Germans are going to kind of push this way. Their goal is to get off the western map edge or the northern map edge at Verviers, which is in the northwestern corner. There's an entry point there, entry point O. If they can exit units off there or off the west, they get victory points for that. They also get victory points for controlling specific cities. Cities that are victory point cities will have a number on them, like this one has a 1. So we are in the German movement and barrage phase. So I wanted to kind of show how barrages work. So what we're going to do is we have this unit right here, which, as I mentioned, is part of the 12th Volksgrenadier, which are these guys right here. We have an American unit right here from the 99th Infantry Division. It is Company A of the 384th. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have these guys barrage that hex. Okay, so now barraging, and note I said hex. You don't barrage units in this game, you barrage the hex. And so that will create effects such as having the attack or defense rating of units in that hex. So you can see this unit here, because the way the counters are set up, the 2 is its attack rating, the 4 is its defense rating, and the 10 is its movement rating. And it's white, which means it's a leg unit. Black means that it's motorized or mechanized or armored. There are vehicles, essentially, is what that means. So like here we have, this is a motorized unit or a mechanized unit. You can also use the NATO symbols to tell what they are. You know, obviously this is a tank unit right here. So basically, if we barrage this unit, it will allow us to have their defense, assuming it is successful. So let's talk about how this works. So we have our artillery right here. So the way this works is we roll one die. So you roll for the barrage success, and there's a table here. This is our terrain effects table, and you can see there is a barrage success roll column right here. So you have to find what kind of terrain they are in. So if we pick this guy up, he's on a road, but he's in a forest. Okay, so that is forest. And forest is this one right here. So we come all the way across. Okay, so if we roll a 4, that is what's called a half barrage. If we roll a 5 or 6, that is a full barrage. So if we roll a 1, 2, or 3, it's nothing. And we will have spent this artillery unit unsuccessfully. So I'm going to roll. I'll just roll kind of up in the air here. We rolled a 2. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that we have rolled a 4. Okay, so it's a 4, which would be a half barrage. So both sides have barrage counters. This is the German barrage counter. And this is the Allied or American barrage counter. Both of them have a full side and a half side. So this is the half side. There's our half side. With a 4, you would get a half barrage. So you put the half barrage counter on there, and now it's a half barrage. Okay, now once we get to the reconciliation phase, right, which comes, you go movement and barrage. So let's say we finish all our movement, we get to the half reconciliation phase. We determine now if this is a half or a full. And we do that by rolling a die again. So we roll, and we get a 6. So 1, 2, and 3 means that you just remove it, it's no barrage. But a 4, 5, or 6 means that it's a full barrage. And so as a full barrage, it has some effects. What are those effects? Well, full markers mean that if you only have one, because you can actually barrage this over and over again, and we could actually have more than one barrage in here, but we only have one. And if you have a stack of enemy units, like here we have, right here, we have 2 units in all 3 of these hexes. There would be a +1 die roll for the American roll if they're going to barrage one of these because of the stacking. If there were 3, you'd get a +2. Okay, and 3 is the stacking limit. So with 1 in here, we get the attack value for this unit is halved, the defend for this unit is halved, and to move into that hex costs 2 extra movement points. So basically, it's kind of interdiction is what I would kind of call, it's what I would consider it to be. You're interdicting that hex by dropping a lot of artillery in there. Heavy explosives, obviously, you're not impacting the unit directly in terms of causing casualties. What you're doing is making it less effective and making anybody moving through that hex have to take cover, move more slowly, etc. That's reflected in the +2 movement. So I think this is a really clever way of implementing the barrages. So now let's say we were going to attack this hex, and we have some units here. So we have a 4. So this guy's got a pretty good attack rating, and that's a 1. And then these 2 are 2 and 4. So we have 2, 6, 7, and 4 more is 11, and their defense is halved, so that 4 becomes a 2. So it's 11 to 2. So you have to divide it basically to make it a base 1, and then you figure out your odds, right? So 11 to 2 reduces to 5.5 to 1. 5.5 will get rounded up to a 6 to 1, which is a really good ratio. And on our combat results table, we would roll, and we get a 4. There's our 4. And a 4 Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to roll 2 dice, not 1. All right, so we get a 5, which isn't a great roll, but a 5 is a D1 R1. So that means the defender loses a step and has to retreat 1 hex. So that's really simple. You flip the unit over, and he has to retreat 1 hex. So he would maybe retreat, he can retreat like away from the attacker. So let's just say he retreats up here. Now these guys can move up if they wish to. You can advance after combat. And so they maybe move these 2 up. Okay, now the barrage marker, which I took off, I think stays in here until you remove it at the end of the turn. So that's kind of how a barrage works. I have a quick correction to make on those combat odds there, because what I forgot to do is take into effect defender hex terrain, woods, because this was woods, not forest. We get a shift of 1 column to the left. So that would have made the odds actually 5-1, not 6-1, and the result would have been D1. So the unit here would have lost a step, but would not have had to retreat. Now, one thing I have also not really mentioned yet is the fact that you can, as the defending player, you can elect to hold or retreat. There are mandatory holds, but you can choose to retreat. And if you do, then you must retreat 5 hexes. You can make no CRT roll. The attack is assumed to have happened, and the attacker can advance after combat. Now, if you wish to retreat and turns out there are some reasons you can't, the mandated hold is, it says a hold becomes mandatory and there can be no retreat before combat if the defender is DG, under an enemy barrage marker, in a city hex, or contains leg movement allowance units. This unit here actually would have been under a mandated hold because it was both under a barrage marker and it is a leg unit because of the white movement allowance there of 10. So they would have had to have stayed and dealt with that. So let's play through a turn, and I'll mention some of the other stuff that comes up. I did want to talk about the barraging because I think that's probably one of the bigger things for this game that's kind of unique in the system, or is a new addition. I don't know if this will come up again in future editions of this particular series. So let's figure out some movement stuff here. So let's say we want our Fallschirmjägers here to start to move in this direction, or just in generally to the west, because what we want to do is push this way in general, because we want to go to the western map edge over there. We could also elect to go in this direction, which may be what we do ultimately, but we have a decent concentration of forces here. Here's another unit that should be under a DG marker because it is in a traffic jam hex. So the traffic jam hexes, real quick, to talk about what that is. They automatically DG units entering or that start a phase within them, as I already mentioned. They only exist on turns 1 and 2. This is turn 2. And they remain in effect until the bitter end of turn 2. Traffic jams affect German units only, and they do not affect US units. So a German-occupied traffic jam hex is prohibited terrain for all other German units. There is no passing, so you cannot pass through that hex, because this just kind of mirrors the logistical challenges of moving through the Ardennes forest region in winter. So you can see we have a couple here with a track going through that. This is not a road, this is a track, this is a road. But the roads also have them, although you'll see here that's a track. This one here, though, is on a road. So there's roads and bridges that are natural choke points, or, tracks and bridges that are natural choke points, which is why Dean put these roadblock hexes, traffic jam hexes in here. The DG effects are pretty straightforward. Basically, your attack is halved, your defense is halved, and your movement is halved. And they also cannot overrun, they cannot exploit, they cannot barrage. So DG on a DG'd artillery unit cannot barrage. As far as recovery, DG recovery, all stacks of both sides remove their DG markers only in the pre-turns barrage and DG marker recovery phase given that they fulfill all of the following. They are not out of supply. They are not in an active traffic jam hex. They are not overstacked. And they are not in violation of divisional integrity. So even though this guy is DG and he's sitting in a traffic jam hex, you can move him out of that. And then at the start of turn 3, his DG marker comes off. But you also have to keep in mind that every unit that enters one becomes DG. And when they move, they keep their DG status because it only comes off, excuse me, at the end or in the DG removal phase at the start of the pre-turn, or during the pre-turn rather. So let's say we want to start moving some of our units here. So, okay, for terrain effects for movement, you have movement cost for leg. These are leg. Our paratroopers are hoofing it, apparently. So open is 2. Road would be 1/2. So if you're on a road and move on a road, it only costs 1/2. So, for example, these two right here, if they wanted to move, they both have, they're both sitting on a road, so they could go 1/2 to get there, and then another 1/2 to get here, and then they're moving adjacent to an enemy unit. It cost us 1 to move here. There is no regular zone of control. You get a +1 for moving adjacently. So since we've only used 1, we could move here. Okay, so we're moving into woods, which has a movement cost of 2, but we're moving adjacently and crossing a stream as well. So we get 1 for moving adjacently to an enemy, which would make it a cost of 3. And then crossing a stream gives you a +1 as well. So that would cost us 4 to move to this hex from here, but that's still only 5, and we have a 2 here. Or an 8 rather. And so let's just say we stop there. Now we can take this one and do the same thing. Now he's going to move to this open here, which would cost 2, and then 1/2 to move here, so 2.5. And so both of these have now moved, and we can stop there with an eye towards attacking this guy on our next turn. Now we have our artillery here as well. It's sitting in this hex right here. Now you can do your barraging and your movement back and forth. They go in the same phase, so you can do them together if you wish. So let's just say we're going to have this guy attack. So we're going to try to drop a barrage on here to try and knock that. Actually, he's only got a 1 defense, so maybe I won't use my barrage on there, but instead try to move another unit in there as well. Now we have a bridge here, so he's able to cross here along the road. He's on a track, so he's going to be transitioning to a road. So the track costs 1, and then from here we're on a road now, so that would be 1/2 and another 1/2 to get here, so that's only 2. So now we have a total of 4, 6, 7. So we're going to have a 7-1 when we attack. And I'll hold the attack until the attack phase, which is a little bit risky because the U.S. can barrage if they have anybody close enough. And I don't know that they have an artillery unit that is close enough. So speaking of artillery, just to clarify some things. Now, usually when we talk about artillery, we have like a strength value, right? In this case, we do not. So here's an artillery unit. The 9 in brackets, that's its range. The 1 is its defense, and the 16 is its movement. So you might say, well, where's the attack value? There is no attack value. Going along with the barrage theory, you're just basically firing into the hex. Fire more shells if you're, lower caliber or whatever it may be. So that's kind of the theory behind that, I believe. You can use your artillery creatively to kind of set up almost like a firewall for your units so that they, when they get to prevent overruns and things like that, make it a little bit more difficult for the enemy to attack you. Okay, so in the interest of kind of keeping all of our stuff together here, we'll take this guy And he's on a road, so he can go here for a half, and then he switches to a track, so that's 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. We'll stop right here. Okay, the idea being that we're going to push on. Now this one only has a range of 6, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's 7 hexes away. So if we did want to use this guy, we should move him as well. Now here's the problem. He should be DG because he's in a traffic jam hex. And that's unfortunate for my artillery unit here because he can't cross this river. He has to go up into the DG hex, into the traffic jam hex, and then come down the road. So for now, he's going to stay here. But we're going to move our SS Panzer guys here to kind of, again, we're going to try to effect a breakout in this direction, right? Well, we need to move some of this out of here. So let's move here because that's into open, which costs 3. So it has a movement of 12. So up the road would be 6. And then he can stack with his friend here. And that's a movement into woods, which costs 6 more. So that would be his entire movement of 12. Now we can move this guy. And because he's DG, his movement is halved. So he only has 4, which is going to make this a little bit difficult. But we want to get him out of the way because I would like, oh, this is also, yep, that's also a traffic jam hex. So they also get a DG. So as you can see, these traffic jam hexes are a bit of a pain. But again, it only lasts for the first couple turns. So let's see. He can't, I don't think he can actually do, with a 4, he's a little limited in where he can move. He can't move here. In fact, I'm not even sure that these guys can be where they are. They might have to be here. Because there is forest in here. We have some mix of forest and woods. So that's not a wholly woods or an entirely woods hex, I guess I should say. So I'm going to say they need to be there, and that would still eat up all the movement the same as before. So let's attack this guy with, again, I'm going to use my artillery, which was sitting here, and it cannot barrage because it's DG. So maybe we wait and just, well, I don't know. This is going to see, this is why this is a little bit challenging here because we have all these kind of roadblocks in the way. Well, we do have a leg unit, so the leg unit can move off the road and get out of the way. So this leg unit is going to move here. So he's moving into, I guess this is probably, yep, it's forest. So forest for a leg unit costs 3. And then he can move up here as well for another 3, so that would be 6. Which will then allow the vehicle unit to move up and stack with these guys right here. Now, oh, wait a minute. I just realized we have a ZOC bond right here. So that was another thing I didn't really mention except briefly in the intro is the ZOC bond. So you have posts that have to be made of infantry units, which both of these are. And what happens when you move into a ZOC bond is it costs you 4 movement points. So that probably means these guys could not do that. See, this is the thing. This is why this is somewhat difficult. And to be honest, I don't remember where they were. So I am actually going to kind of leave them where they are, which probably isn't the right thing to do. So let's move this guy out of the DG hex. So he'll stay DG, but he can move out of this hex. And we're going to send him this way down the road, which is the road is a half. So that would cost 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we can transition to the track. So he has 4. So on a track also costs 2. So that would be 4 total. And then he can stop there. Now this one, he's already DG. This guy's here. He's already DG. And his movement factor is what? Also an 8. It is artillery. So moving there would be 1. And then up here would be 2. Again, it stays DG. Now we're going to take these guys and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, which will then allow me to move these guys in. So he's going to move here, which will make him DG. And then this guy's going to move here, which will make him DG. And he can move 1 more. I mean, I believe this is how it works. Once you're DG, you're DG. So I'm just going to move all these guys up. I know they're going to become DG, but it's just for now. I don't really have any way to barrage this guy because the units are all DG. So let's well, he can move 1 more to get there. And I'm going to stack them here and they'll both be DG. And this guy's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 and stop. This one will go 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is DG. So we're going to move this one here. So that costs 2. But then, so in here it becomes halved, which would give him 5. So he can move here and get DG'd. Now this guy is going to move here. He has 7. So that's 2, 4. Now they can pass through. That would be 6 and then 8. So he can't actually go as far as I wanted him to, but he can go. He can go here, but then we would be violating divisional integrity, which I do not want to do. So we will not do that. And in fact, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to move him this way. We're going to go this way, which costs 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll stack them here because they're all in the same unit. We're trying to get through here. And this is the challenge at the beginning, and I'm got completely all screwed up here. So now we'll take our artillery. They're going to go here and get DG. So moving there, it's road to road. So that's only a half. But now he's DG'd, so that would take it down to basically 10. So 9.5, 8.5, 7.5, 6.5. We'll stop there. This guy has an 8, so he'll go here, which will cost him a half. And in here, which would cost him another half, leaving him with 7, which gets halved to 3.5, so we'll round that down. So he can move here, but he is DG. I'm going to run out of DG counters here. So that's basically all I can do movement-wise down in this zone. We'll move up and do the rest of the zone. And I think what I'll do is I'll just hold it for now. Yeah, I'm going to hold... Well, I'm going to move the rest of the Germans, and then I'll show you what I did, rather than go through it, you know, piece by piece to kind of keep things expedited a little bit. I'll come back and show you where we are, and then if we have any barrages if we have any barrages, I'll show those. And then we have the U.S. can fire some barrages, and they actually have some units. The U.S. artillery has better range, like these two are both 7s. So they can reach out to this area, I'm pretty sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they can hit this area. These red framed hexes, that's the West Wall, the Siegfried line, because this is Germany. This is Germany and this is Belgium. So the dashed line here is the border. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment and do the rest of the move, and then I'll come back. And as I mentioned, I'll do some barraging maybe if I see something that I want to do. Back, and we moved all of the units up here in the north. We do have some DG choke points here that you can see. There's also one just below here, right there. That's kind of off camera right now, but I wanted to get as much of the map in as possible without zooming out too far. So basically I'm going to do some barraging. So we have these two units right here. They're independent, but they can barrage. I'm going to have them barrage this unit right here, because if you can quarter it, if both of these get full barrage on here, that would make it quartered, which would round down to a 1. And then with these two attacking, I can actually get it to a 5-1, which is pretty decent odds. Anything above like a 4-1 is what you're looking for in this system, pretty much, in my opinion. So let's start off with this guy right here. So again, the defender here is in woods, not forest, but woods. So that's not particularly helpful, but it does help. Actually, it doesn't help. It doesn't help in the defender hex terrain. It's still a 1-column shift to the left. So anyway, let's see what we get. We rolled a 1, so that one failed. Now we'll try this one, which also failed. So those two both failed. And I'll just twist them like this to indicate that I tried to barrage them and it failed. That way I have a visual reminder that it didn't work. All right, we'll try this guy with a 6. He gets a 5, so that is a full barrage. So that one was successful. Here. And now we'll roll again for this one. And he also gets a 5. So we get 2 barrages on there. So now what that does is his defense gets quartered. So his defense actually goes all the way down to a 1. Now he is in a forest, or woods rather. So if I were to attack, which I can't do right now because we're not at the attack phase yet, but we have a 2 and a 3 and a 2, 3, 4 basically. I could actually move this guy up as well, which would make it a 6, and then with the column shift we get a 5. So let's do that because I didn't move this guy, so I can move him up to right here. And now we have potentially a 2, 3, 4, 6 to 1 attack. And I say potentially because the U.S. gets its barrage phase now. So the U.S., and we don't have any half reconciliations to do. These guys both fired. And I have this one as well, but he's 1, 2, 3. He's out of range, barely. Although he could move closer and do it. I'm a little leery of moving him too much closer because we have this artillery unit, this infantry unit here that could attack. So maybe we'll barrage this guy just for the hell of it. Why not? And he gets a 4, and this guy is actually, well, that's kind of half and half, but we're going to say that that's woods. So a 4 means a half barrage. So now you'll get to see reconciliation, which is pretty basic. Basically, I roll 1 die. It's a 5. I always roll a 5 with this. Maybe like one die always rolls a 1 and the other one always rolls a 5. So that reconciles to a full barrage. So that's what we have for barrages. Now we're going to go to the American side. So let me remove the tower here so we can look at what the Americans have artillery-wise. They have one here, which is an independent. They have one here, which is divisional artillery. And it's the 99th Infantry, which is this guy right here. So this guy could barrage any of these units, any of these 2 units, because they can be spotted by this one. So let's do it. So he has a range of 7. That's no problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go after this guy. So I'll put my tower back. And we rolled a 6. So that is a full barrage. So now that changes things. That definitely changes things because his attack is now halved, and it becomes a 5-1 instead of a 6-1. Now, this one goes with the 2nd Infantry. So these are 2nd Infantry up here and right here. So we can do a barrage here, and maybe we should barrage this guy because that's also in range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to barrage there. We'll do the same thing and get another 6. Roll the same number every time. So that's going to have that one's value as well. They don't have anything in the south that we saw earlier. This guy has a range of 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And because it's an independent, it can be spotted by anybody. So let's use this one to bombard this guy, right? And he gets a 5, 5, which is another full barrage because this is woods. So that's all full barrages. We don't have to do half reconciliations, and that completes the American artillery. So the Americans had a lot of artillery, obviously, in this battle, and artillery is very important, of course, as you might suspect. So now we would do combat. So for combat, it's pretty straightforward. Let's say we're going to do right here. So we know that these guys are under 2 barrages. So their defense is a 1. His attack is going to be a 1 because he's also under a barrage. Then we have another 1 for 2, 3, and then under here, they also got 1. So it becomes a 4 to 1. So 4 to 1, and the defender is in the woods. So that is a shift to the left, which makes it a 3 to 1. So with a 3 to 1, basically, it's a little dicey, pun intended, to try a 3 to 1 attack because you get a 2 or a 3 will mean a 2-step loss for the attacker. A 4 means a 1-step loss for the attacker. A 5 is an exchange, basically 1 step each. A 6 is a D 1 step. And then 7 and higher will be at least 1 step loss and 1 retreat. But you know what? Fortune favors the bold, and the Germans were very much rolling the dice in this particular campaign, so we're going to do it. So we're looking for a 7 or higher from the Germans, and for the Americans, obviously, we want a low number. And they rolled a 2. That is terrible. That is 2 step losses for the U.S., for the Germans, rather. So the way you assign step losses is you have to start with the most powerful unit, if I remember correctly. So both of these guys right here are 2s, and I'm going to take the step losses from them. Okay, and that's all the combat, I think. Well, actually, that's all the combat on the northern side. Let's move down to the southern side. Okay, so if you remember, I was going to attack this unit. Now, we have 2, 3, and 4 is 7, and their defense is a 1 because this one already took a step loss. However, we are attacking across a stream and into the woods. So that's going to be 2 columns to the left. So our 7 to 1 will become a 5 to 1. So it's 1 column shift to the left for the woods and 1 for attacking across a stream. So we will put our dice tower. Here, I'll just do it. Floating dice tower, we rolled a 10, which is a great roll. So we were on the 7 to 1, which moves us down to the 5 to 1, and an 11, or a 10 rather, is D2R3. So that's going to eliminate this unit, so it's dead. And we can advance after combat. And our Fallschirmjäger here have cleared out part of the southern area down here, making it a little bit easier for them to advance. Now, we can also do an attack up here. Here's the thing, though. This is a 4. So even if I do all of these guys, what do we have here? We have, well, that's 6. 3, that would be 9, 10, 14. My tweezer skills leave much to be desired. Let's put it that way. So we have 6 here, 10, 11, 14, 17, 23. So 23 to 4. So let's divide that by 4. 5 to 1. They're in the woods, so they do get a shift. Nobody's attacking across the stream or anything. So it's 4 to 1 odds. So that's actually decent enough to give this a shot. And let's see if we can knock this guy out of the box. Rolled a 9. So 9 here on our 4 to 1 is a D2 R2. Not R2 D2, but D2 R2. Sorry, could not resist. But 2 steps is going to eliminate this guy. And then we'll just advance, just to get him back on a road hex at least. And that will be the end of the combat phase here for the Germans. So now we would switch over to the U.S. turn. And so they remove their barrage markers. And there are a couple on here. So we'll remove this one. I think the clear strategic thrust for the Americans at this particular time is to try to cobble together a defensive line. Because right now things are not looking really all that good for them. So they should probably start to pull back a little bit, and try to set something up maybe along this area here, as opposed to, their forces are concentrated in this area and there's nothing in the south, which is bad because, the Germans, once we hit turn 3, all of these traffic jam hexes go away, and it's just going to be highway to the west here. Highway to the danger zone. Throw in a little 80s music reference there. So, yeah, I think what the Americans are going to do is they're going to pull back a little bit. So we'll take this guy here, and he's going to go... Well, we also want to keep our supply lines open because we don't want to be DG ourselves on the American side by having the Germans get behind us, which is definitely a possibility here. Like, we have tracks which aren't great, but there are some roads here. Like, if they knock this guy out, they have an open road to Boulingen, and then through the track here they can get to Amblieve. Boulingen is a victory point location, and so is Elsenborn, and they can probably get around and go up that way. And again, if we end up coming all the way across, that's going to be bad for... oh, I forgot to do German supply. So the one German unit that is not in supply is our airborne over here, which I didn't do anything with, and I probably should have. In retrospect, I should have moved him maybe down this way because he could have gone. He's a 4. That's not great, but that would be 1, 2. So he could have got to Sauerbrot here, or even down towards Malmedy. The point is, once the American or Allied reinforcements start coming in from the the northern and eastern area, this is going to get dangerous for them. And I just realized you can't see that airborne unit, but there's an airborne unit up in that area that I landed earlier in this video. So that would be the von der Heide unit, and he's out of supply, so he's DG right now. And I did screw up by not moving him, but he'll have a movement factor of a whole 2 next turn to try and move up. Obviously, if we can get a clear path through this road somehow, then maybe we can actually get him in supply, but that's going to be a tough cookie here. So let's start moving our Americans back. So he's going to pull out, and that's 1. They'll go here and then down. So they started here. 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. And then that would put them right here, and that would be basically 5. And now we have a ZOC bond right here because these two are one apart. So these are posts, and we have a ZOC bond right there. So not bad for two one-step units that are already reduced and teetering on the edge of oblivion. Let's move this guy down into Boolean, or maybe even go a little further. I want to kind of keep my divisional integrity together. That's part of the concern here. So I'm going to pull my artillery back. We'll pull him back to the crossroads. Actually, we'll pull him. The 99th only has one unit out on the map right now. But they are getting more, I believe. I believe they're getting more. So here's the 2nd Infantry. So we're going to go this way. So each of these is 2. So 2, 4, 6, and then up the road would be 7. We'll put him in Elsenborn for now. And let's move this guy down 1. And we'll move, actually we'll leave him in the town, and I won't have a ZOC bond here, but we'll try it. It's going to be hard to cut through there anyway. Yeah, that's a victory. That's a city. So we're going to try to hold the cities if we can. Now these are infantry, so they can actually move that without being on a road. Maybe we sit tight with everybody else. He's here. He's here. I got a little knocked ajar here. All right, so let's barrage some people and see if we can maybe set up an attack on somebody. So let's hit this guy again, right here. So we'll take this one and this one. Because that's unaligned. Oh, we do have two 99s, one here and one there. Even there. So if we need to provide this guy with artillery support, I'll use this one. So we're going to have this guy fire at this one first. We'll do that just to kind of get this thing rolling here. 5, so that's a full barrage. And then we'll hit this. We'll have this one hit it 2. And a 2 is nothing. So both of these have fired. And again, I just realized you can't see that. We're attacking this guy up here, and I've been off camera the whole time. Let me just zoom out a little bit. All right, so we're barraging this unit with these 2 artillery. That's what was going on off camera. I apologize for that. But that's what happened there. So we've got 1 barrage on there. We don't have any reconciliation to do. I could fire this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 doesn't reach. Yeah, we're going to hit this crossroads right here. So let's do that. And we rolled a 1, so that was a failure. All right, so that's the end of movement and barrage. We can do combat now. So let's attack this unit, which is under a barrage. So his defense gets downgraded to a 1.5, which rounds up to 2. Their attack is a 6, so that becomes a 3-1. They are in woods, I believe. Yep, and a town. They're in a town, actually. So the town is even worse, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's 2 left. You know what? We're not going to do it. No attack. I don't think it's worth it. The odds would not be in our favor. That would be a 1-to-1 attack, which is a really risky thing to do, and we're not going to do it. So moving on, that would be, we would go to exploitation. We didn't have any combat. Nobody's exploiting. I also skipped that on the German side. They didn't really have anybody to exploit either. To exploit, you would use the yellow banded units. They're exploit capable. We did not do any exploitation, however. Now, as far as next, we would go supply. So again, we have to check supply. Now, the U.S., none of their units are cut off. As far as I can tell, none of their units are cut off. I hope they're not, because I'm out of DG. I'm out of DG counters. Let me check what we have to confirm for supply here. Okay, so 5 hexes from a road. So he's not on a road, but he's 1, 2, 3 from a road. They're within 5 of a road. These guys are on a road. They're within, that's on. And the guys over at the other edges are on as well. And I forgot to move my units from the western edge, so I'm going to do that now. It's a little out of order, but I would have done it, and I totally forgot. So we need to get some of these reinforcements up. We have elements of the Big Red 1, the companies A and B of the 28th. So we're going to go half, 1, 2, 3, and you can see me coming in now, 4, 4.5. Let's stop right here. I could have attacked these guys if I had remembered to move them. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to move them up adjacent so that they can attack them on the next turn. My Belgians, I'm actually going to, let's move them to Malmedy because we can. So I know I'm doing this all out of order, and I apologize, I screwed up. Now we've got a couple of independent units here. Let's move them across. Let's see. We're going to move them to the south. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.5, 9.5, 11.5, 13.5. So we're going to try to start to set up a defensive line here as the Americans. So that would be the end of that. As I said, I checked supply. They're in supply. They're in supply. These guys are in supply. So everybody's good, and I'm going to wrap this up. So I'm going to end. Let me turn all these back now. I'm going to actually end the video now. I did one full turn. Aside from screwing up and being too zoomed in to where you couldn't see some stuff, hopefully you were able to get the gist of how the game plays. To start the next turn, we would do our weather, which is going to be a no freeze because it's always no freeze until December 23rd. We'd roll for airstrike. We would do air supply allocation if we wanted to. We wouldn't need to, so we would probably use airstrikes, assuming I actually got one. We bring in the reinforcements. This is turn 3, so both sides would get reinforcements. And then we would do our barrage and DG marker removal for both sides. So all the DG markers would come off. The traffic jam hexes are no longer applicable in turn 3, etc., etc. But as I said, that's going to do it. I'm going to wrap it up here. That will be the end of this particular video. It was a little scattered. I'm still trying to learn the game. I don't have a lot of experience with SCS in the base case, and this one is a little bit different from most of the other ones, as far as I know. I believe this is a lot of new stuff with the barrages and the ZOC bonds and so on and so forth. So that's going to wrap it up. I do appreciate you guys watching. Please feel free to point out any corrections. I know I probably screwed up at least several times. So feel free to point out any mistakes I made so that everybody can learn. And make any comments. Let me know if you would like me to continue this. I may do at least one more turn just to kind of show how things develop. This is only a 6-turn scenario, but I don't know that I would do all 6 turns. That's a long series, and I'm sure people would lose interest. So that may not be in the cards, but I could do one more turn. So let me know if you think you would like to see that. Probably be a little bit more streamlined than this, at least. But that will do it. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, etc. As I always say. My name's Joe. This has been Hexed Encountered, and until next time, happy gaming.